Tom, hey, congratulations for season three of Upload. You directed a couple episodes.
It did. I had a great time doing it.
Well, that's it. That's terrific to hear. So tell us how you were brought on board to Upload and why you wanted to do this project.
Well, I'd known Greg from Space Force. I did a couple of episodes of his show Space Force and had a great experience doing it, and was a big fan of his work before Space Force. But even when I was doing Space Force, I was aware of Uploads. And what's crazy is this is the first time I've directed on a show that I have been a fan of, if you get my drift. I'd watched the first two seasons religiously, and it was one of the few things that me and my girlfriend could sit and watch together, you know. So it was really crazy having watched two seasons of the show and being really into it and really into the characters and the world, and then suddenly being there and just sort of expected to do my job and having to get over my, fanboyness. But I'd sort of let Greg know that I was a fan, and I was sort of honoured to be part of it. At the same time, sort of wary, because the worst thing would be if you're a fan of a show and then you go to work on it and don't have the great time, or maybe you meet some unpleasant people. But all the cast and crew were amazing, and it's right up there with one of my favorite jobs I've ever done, to be honest.
Was your approach to something like for Upload different from other TV projects you have done in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on shows before where I've started it and you sort of get to do what you want effectively, and then I've worked on shows where someone else has set the look and you sort of work within the parameters that have been laid out for you. Whereas this was a bit of a mix, to be honest, because there's sort of rules of Upload that have been set up that I sort of used and sort of implemented. But in the same time within it, in my two episodes I do, there's so many worlds that I've got to create from scratch, full, set designs and production design that I've sort of got to build from the ground up. So moments like that, you sort of really get to, flex your muscles on and put your stamp on it. And then even, there's little comedy beats that I sort of worked hard to get in there and have made the final edit, and have sort of appeared in previous work. So there's a bit of a through line, but with a mix of sort of serving the material and serving the show that people love so much.
Now, was it working with Greg this time around a little bit different, or pretty much the same from Space Force?
It was the same, but he like Upload is his baby, and he has such a love for the show, and he's done two seasons of it now, so you can really tell there's that attention to detail with Greg is really amazing, to be honest, and he's sort of across it all, and I sort of knew my episodes well, but he knows them well, and he knows the rest of the series and the series, that might come after it and what's come before it really well. So he's sort of got of that world, and he's sort of he knows it inside and out. But there's just moments where you can just tell he's excited to see the stuff that he's creating. He's excited to see the things that he's written down on paper, and it's great to see.
Were there certain challenges for you, because in even though you directed two episodes, you have to navigate between two different worlds, the virtual and the reality worlds. Was that challenging for you?
Yeah, but sort of good. A lot of UK TV, man, that I've done is it's people talking in apartments. You go, the bare bones of it. It's people talking in rooms. So there's sort of this few and far between the moments where you get to really like lean into something and lean into genre and go big or go home. I mean, I got to do a futuristic dystopian call center, you know, and it's Dune-esque what we went for, and it totally works. And, you know, was within the realms of the show. So I really relished moments like that and leaned into it. But then there's moments, you know, where in the real world, like I've got a shared living space. And that the influences for that were very real world now, you know. There's sort of homes. I dare say I don't want to call them homes. Really, there's pods people are living in now. You know, across the world that we were able to sort of pull references from and sort of do our near future version of that. You know, so it was a challenge, but a lot of fun, and also there's a lot of stuff you can lean into and draw inspiration from, whether that be June or, you know, sort of quite grim stuff that's happening right now in our real world.
Have you worked with a lot of because I want to say, because of the virtual world and what you created, like the call center was there was some green screen into that. Have you worked with a lot of that? Do you like working with green screen stuff?
I've done a fair share of it. I've done a mix. I did a sketch show for 3 years for the BBC, and one of our big recurring sketches on that featured sort of purposefully bad green screen. And I sort of love doing that because then there's zero pressure. You sort of, you know, you lean into it looking fake. Whereas this, you sort of, you know, you've got a bit of a license because it's virtual reality, but at the same time, you want it to look good. But there's a great team of, you know, tech guys on there. And my running joke with those guys, because they're the ones who do it all, you know, I just had a joke of like, you're just going to do computers on it, right? Yeah. Because they go off and work all the magic and make it look cool. I get the luxury of just sort of presenting references and saying, I want it to look like that. Mm-hmm. And then they go off and do the magic. But that set in particular, we actually got to build that call center set, which I just thought was amazing. And then what's really good in that is we then sort of augmented it. You know, the real world thing we built, we then augmented and, you know, sort of perfected with CGI. And I think that's always the best balance. But it's sort of fun and exciting, and, you know, again, it's sort of different to the sort of standard stuff you're normally shooting. It's sci-fi worlds, and, you know, you can sort of dream up anything to put in there. You know, the exterior of this call center is lifted almost directly from Blade Runner. You know, it's a direct lift from the original Blade Runner. And, you know, Ridley Scott is from my hometown in the northeast of the UK. And I just sort of think it's great that I'm getting to use, you know, references from his seminal, you know, movies from the 80s and 70s to sort of, you know, steer people for my Amazon show. Now it's sort of great, full circle world.
Yeah, that is wonderful, and especially the fact that one of your episodes, you got to do a secret level at Lakeview, you know, with an entire production and a resident in that level of the hotel, which is I thought it was quite fun.
Yeah, no, again, it's so we do in the 2 episodes, you're sort of doing so many worlds, but then you're doing so many genres. You know, you've got, as I say, the call center is a bit Dune-esque and a bit Blade Runner, and really leaning into the sci-fi elements of the show. But then we've got this little mini horror film, you know, in amongst it as well, that, you know, I was borrowing from Sam Raimi and, you know, from Resident Evil games in the original PlayStation. I was borrowing all elements from that. And again, you can sort of really lean into it. And it's sort of horror, but at the same time, it's comedy. We've got arguably, I think, one of the funniest little guest appearances from a man with no eyelids in that section. And, it's the type of thing you would only get in a show like Upload. Because I didn't see it coming. I didn't know that having a character with no eyelids suddenly makes it, 100 times funnier, because it really does. So yeah, it's that great mix of genres and those great little worlds that you get to build. It's a sort of director's dream, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It was freaky and funny at the same time, in all cases. Tom, let me leave with one more thought. Is Because you do a lot of these, comedy. Does comedy come naturally for you when you're directing, and how do you get the comedy out of your actors so easily?
Yeah, do you know when I first started making short films when I was, late teens? The big trend was sort of gritty, social realist short films that they won all the awards, and that's what I tried to make at first. And I always remember when this attempt at a little gritty, very serious film at a festival, and it played alongside a comedy film. And I was just so jealous of that filmmaker sitting there and getting to listen to his short film, getting laughs. And then I thought, right, from next year, I'm going to make a comedy short film. And that short film that I then went on to make is the thing that really started my career. So then from then on, I've just sort of been sort of addicted to it, really. And it's the thing that I love the most. I'm really picky with what I watch. But if I find a comedy that I really love, I will rewatch it, and it'll become like a part of me. Shows like The Office in the UK, or there's a show, Peep Show, that's really big in the UK. These are the things that I will, if I need something to watch and I can't think of anything else, I will rewatch those shows for, the 100th time. And it becomes part of your DNA. So that's sort of what I'm into. And then I think the key with actors, sort of getting comedic performances from them, is to just get them relaxed and get them trying out crazy, different, unexpected things and feeling safe in doing that. Carell, is very much of the same school. I mean, he would do takes on Space Force, like screaming them. And then he would do takes whispering them, and he would do an angry one. And he would just play around, and then you would strike gold. So I think that's the key for me for comedy is, trying out as much stuff as possible and surprising yourself, surprise the audience and surprise yourself. And we had a lot of opportunities to really, go guns blazing in Upload. There's a lot of crazy characters in even crazier situations where you really got to, go for the comedy jugular.
Yeah, most certainly, and I'm glad that you're a fan of the series and you got to direct a couple episodes. Tom, thank you very much for speaking to us. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, man.
Hey.